What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the episode of The Lawyer You Know. And we have some post-trial interviews, which we always love whenever we finish a trial to see kind of the debrief and what everybody thinks happened, what is maybe next to come, especially when we can get interviews from some of the lawyers. And we get it from the lawyer on this case, Georgia Kappelman, the lead prosecutor on all of these Dan Markel conspiracy criminals that have been convicted to this point, and Donna Adelson is none other than one of those criminals who has been convicted because that trial is done. She is going away forever for the rest of her life. But what does a prosecutor feel in a position like this? Who is she thinking about as she prosecutes these cases? Is she done? The big question everybody has. Let's watch this interview together. You're going to get my reaction. I'm going to answer a bunch of the questions you've already asked me. And thank you to everybody who tagged me in this interview. Make sure you hit the like button on this video. Let's get all right. And this was right after the verdict. She's wearing the same suit that she was wearing when the verdict came down. So let's hear her immediate reactions.
So before we ask you the question, that's
nobody's going to do that.
What's it like in this moment? What was it like to have this defendant?
So in case you didn't hear that, she said, before I asked you the question that's on everybody's mind, and Georgia's like, nobody's going to do that, right? And I think we already know what question's on everybody's mind because it's on all of your minds.
Be found.
I think I just feel kind of honored to be able to deliver this win for the Markels. You know, we've heard so much about a win for the Adelsons, and everything that was lost in this effort. So it's just been really cool to be a part of this win.
During one of the pre-trials, you said these trials that have become my life. It's a lot of trials at this point. Mm-hmm. Talk about what happens when you're a prosecutor and you have to continue to follow cases like this one.
Well, I mean, I do have other cases. People don't know that. There are other cases. And I care about, all of them, but obviously this has become sort of part of my DNA after investing so much blood, sweat, and tears into this case and getting justice.
I appreciate how she said that. So obviously she has other cases like every lawyer. They all have other cases. Some prosecutors only have one case, especially federal prosecutors. There are certain times where they're only working on one big case or investigation. They put all their time into that. I would guess she has less cases than your average prosecutor because of this case. And I'm glad she said she put so much blood, sweat, and tears that she cares about all of her case, but this does feel part of her DNA. And it's very rare that a prosecutor gets 4 cracks at the same or similar fact pattern. I know there are differences in every trial, and if there are more trials, there will be more differences, but you master a case like this so much differently and so much more than you would ever master a case you got one shot at and you got to try one time. So there is a difference in this case, with this prosecutor than every other case that she has, but she does have other cases, and all lawyers are like that generally, that the case you see is not the only case they're working on. It's not the only client they care about. It's not the only victim they care about. It's not the only justice they're fighting for. So I appreciate her highlighting that.
So yeah, it's been an epic battle.
Was this one tougher than Charlie's trial?
I don't know. I mean, I'm older, so I think it is. I think everyone is tougher than the last. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, more time passes and there's more stuff. There's more phones. There's more records. There's more emails. So it's a lot to organize, and it's a lot of little pieces to try to put together and try to create something cognizable that a jury can follow and get their head around.
So a great answer there, right? This is the first time I'm watching this interview, by the way. I haven't seen the whole thing, so it's going to be my immediate reactions. Like we talked about, when you have to try a case a second time, and we heard a lot of Karen Reed's lawyers talk about, you have the grand jury, you have maybe a deposition or a sworn statement with a law enforcement. You have a first trial, you have a second trial, you have a third trial, you have a fourth trial, you have the retrial in this case, right? You've got all these different statements. So you have to impeach witnesses properly. And we saw some of those issues come out where Jeff Lacoste said one thing in this scenario, but not with this lawyer team, or not in this case, not something that was discovered to these lawyers in this defense. So that can create issues, and that makes her job more difficult. So I think wrapping her arms around everything is more difficult. But in my opinion, watching her try each one of these cases, She's very, very confident in their theme and theory, and that confidence seems to grow with every trial, in my opinion.
In Georgia, opening statements right out of the gate, Jackie Fulford appropriated Professor Markel's nickname, calling him Danny. A lot of people were upset about that. Did that bother you?
Not as much as it bothered some other folks. I understood what she was trying to do. It was not the classiest move, and I think she kind of realized that and seemed to correct that over the course of the trial. But yeah, probably not a great move.
And what about
And not only was it, talking about whether or not that was a great move, she almost apologized for it or had to explain to the jury why she was going to call him Danny. Whenever you have to do that, you should think twice about making that move. If this is something I'm going to have to apologize to the jury for, should I really step forward with that move or strategy as an attorney?
the amount of deliberations is roughly the same as Charlie, maybe a few minutes more, but not much. That surprised you because some people were predicting a longer deliberation
A
period.
little bit. I actually lost. I thought it would be slightly shorter, but I was being pretty ambitious.
Good.
But yeah, I wouldn't have surprised me.
I mean, does that say confidence to you? Her money was on it was going to be a shorter deliberation than Charlie. She knows this story works. The jury understands the story she's explaining. The jury understands how these pieces fit together, regardless of some technicalities or things they tried to do, the Adelsons, to put into place to make them not connect to the actual person pulling the trigger, right? A lot of people are saying, well, if they didn't pull the trigger, she started it in jury selection with this is the law. Can you follow the law even if you don't like it or you don't think it's fair? Then in opening, she tells the story. And then in closing, she uses all the evidence to show she fits into these pieces to where even though she didn't pull the trigger, she is legally guilty. And you already told me you would follow the law, whether or not you agree with it. She's done it enough times in this case. She's confident because she's had enough jurors agree with her at this point, right? The first time you do it, you're hopeful, you believe it, you think it's the truth as a prosecutor, you go forward, you win. Okay, you get a little more confident. A hung jury on, one of those. Okay, but then you go win. Okay, then you get another one and you win. And you get another one and you win. And the confidence is supreme at this point. That's why she's taking the under. On 3 hours for a trial like this, the under is crazy.
That had been more difficult for them because it was a large puzzle that kind of had to be put together. But I guess they got what they needed and they knew what they had to do.
Will this be the last
surprised?
prosecution?
You are asking the
Oh,
question.
yeah.
Why are you that guy?
Were you surprised by the defense strategy of throwing Wendy and Charlie under the bus? And was the adoptive admissions ruling something that you pre-planned or something that you all came up with at the last moment?
We had a few incarnations of how to deal with the fact that she had adopted Charlie's really ridiculous story previously. We didn't want her to be able to distance herself from that.
So you hear her, the verbiage she puts behind that is purposeful. Charlie's really ridiculous story. We knew that she adopted it with the truth is out, the truth is out. They had her phone, they had the text messages, they knew all of that. So they knew she adopted Charlie's ridiculous story and they wanted to pin her down into that. This is how lawyers think. When you have something and you're not sure, are they going to go with this at trial? They don't. They don't have to go with it at trial. But she's saying, I don't care what they do because we have the defendant's words adopting Charlie's crazy story. We know that we can discredit Charlie's crazy story. We've already beaten Charlie's crazy story, and we know we can do it again. So we want to make sure we get that. We noticed that through some of the questions. We noticed it, as Jackie Fulford said, over the defense's objection. A lot of that came in. And then the prosecutor spent a lot of time in her closing focusing on hammering down Charlie's story and doing her best to tie Donna to it.
And create a new, better defense, which she did seem to kind of try to be doing. So we did want to try to shove that on her and then try to explain that to the jury. Okay, here's this whole other defense that she already adopted, and it's complicated and it has all its pushback that goes with it. So
I'm really excited to tell you guys about today's sponsor, Vessi. They are a waterproof shoe company. And I know what you may be thinking when you hear waterproof shoe company that they're going to look a certain way, but check out these shoes. They're incredibly stylish, incredibly comfortable, absolutely perfect for me here in Florida during hurricane season, which is right now, and it rains every single day. Because they're waterproof, they are so easy to clean. I really cannot overstate how comfortable and stylish these shoes are. I've got an all white pair that goes well with like every single outfit I want to wear. They also have the weekend sneaker, which I ordered one of those as well. It's so light, and you may have guessed, waterproof and easy to clean. So you should really check them out if you're in the market for a new sneaker, because you will not regret it. They're comfortable, they're stylish, they're easy to clean, they're waterproof. It doesn't get much better than that. So step into fall ready with waterproof, versatile Vessi weekend sneakers. Shop now at vessi.com/LYK and enjoy 15% off your first pair with a 1-year warranty and 30-day hassle-free returns. Me and Whitney refuse to buy anything that doesn't have a hassle-free return guarantee, and Vessi's got you covered there and with waterproof sneakers. They would come up with a different and better defense, and she said they kind of did that. They developed something different. They developed something better than Charlie. And because they developed something better than Charlie, they were like, no. We want to stick to the bad defense that you said was the truth. The truth has finally come out. The truth will set you free. All of these text messages she was sending out that did come out during the state's questioning. But that's why she took that time in closing. And maybe that's the reason that it won. I think they had a great case without that. But it was part of their plan. They stuck to their plan, and their plan worked. So you don't need to second guess a plan that worked, right?
It did feel like a difficult minefield to wade through to be able to explain all that to the jury, but we
I
wanted to
agree.
make sure they understood that, hey,
I agree with her so much. I'm sorry I'm pausing a lot, but that's kind of the point of this channel, number one. Number two, I had so much thought about what she did there. And so she knew it was going to be a little clunky and convoluted. She knew it was going to be difficult. She knew it was going to take more time probably than she wanted to focus on that in her closing. She decided to do it anyways, and it worked.
she's already committed to this defense that's a loser. And now she's trying to switch it up and go to this whole other place, and you gotta pick a lane, you can't do both. So I think that's kind of what we were trying to do. So hopefully we were.
You can do both. You can argue kind of alternate theories, but you can get into trouble doing it. And this is exactly how. There's nothing legally wrong with doing it, but practically and logically, it can be a real problem and a real mistake for some defense attorneys when they go down this road, especially if the prosecutor has a plan, they're thinking ahead, they've already beaten that theory. It's kind of like, for a football analogy, you beat the spread offense, or you beat a team that passes all the time. Well, now they're starting to run, right? So you've got to beat that run game, but you already beat the passing game. So you know how to beat it. And that's what she's saying here is we already beat that. We want to tell the jury we already beat that. And that was their original plan. So they knew they had to change it. They don't know what's going on. They're just trying to trick you guys. They're trying to come up with something different because they know the real defense that they already ratified and said was the truth. They didn't even try to explain that to you. Why do you think that is?
It sounded like the new investigation developed a lot of crazy evidence, including y'all were planning to use some phone calls that you were not able to use at the trial. Is the sealing of this evidence going to be unsealed once now that Donna has been convicted, or do you know?
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I don't know.
And you cannot still comment, I guess, about
I
the
think not.
details.
Since it's sealed, right? Yes,
All right,
it's
no
less
comment
sexy
about-
than you imagine it to be, but I don't think I should comment on it since
Okay.
it's.
So somebody said, I saw somebody say online, she said it was less sexy. So people had a problem with that. It's just kind of the way that she talks and talks about this case is she knows people are sitting there hanging on every word. She knows people care about this. She knows we're out here talking about it. You heard Dan Markel's mom thank the people out here talking about this case, keeping it alive for all these years, how important it is to get full justice for the entire Markel family, including the Markel boys. And I think she just means like everybody on the internet is expecting to see something that's like, wow, and just break the case wide open. And it's not necessarily that, but if you know anything about lawyers, you know that we can hear things and words are so important. Definitions are important. What people say are important. And if it's code or what they actually mean is different than what they say and how it can be used to fit our theory and argument, a not sexy phone call can be very, very important evidence in a case.
How did you feel when you found out that Donna was not going to be testifying? Somebody tells me you're probably salivating at the idea of
I don't know
cross-examining
about
for over the last 11
salivating.
years.
Yeah, it's not like I was gonna wow you guys with some amazing new stuff or anything,
Uh-huh.
but I did put tons of preparation into that. So I was a little bit like sad when I took my binder that had 110 tabs and packed it away. So yeah, I was a little surprised. She seems like somebody that would want to tell her story, but
I agree. So it's funny. She was even surprised. She was prepared. And it's funny, in the last trial that I just did with my dad, not one, but two witnesses he was supposed to have in the case ended up, one of them was I won't give too many details, but one of them was supposed to be called by the other side, and we had a lot. I mean, my dad had more than 100 tabs in his multiple binders that he was going to cross-examine this witness on, and they decided not to call her, which I think was a good move, so much so that we almost called her in our case in chief, but instead we decided to read in some text messages and some evidence from her that came off just painting the exact picture we wanted to. But my dad felt the same exact way. He was up late prepping for this witness. This was going to be like, his Mona Lisa of this trial. And he was super bummed when she was not called. And I thought it was kind of funny. I was like, oh, that stinks. And she has kind of the same exact feeling here. Same thing, Jackson talking about not being able to cross Proctor. When it's a witness, you really feel confident that you're going to be able to prove your point and show that witness for who they are. That's really what it comes down to. When you as a lawyer feel like you're going to be able to show a witness for who they are in cross-examination, which is really the best test and push for the truth and scrutinizing evidence. Is this actually true? When you can, it's like the Mike Tyson quote, or at least the quote Mike Tyson made famous. Everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the mouth. Everybody's fine on direct, but when you get hit in the mouth on cross, how is your story really going to come out? How are you really going to be able to put this together? What's it going to sound like? Is the jury actually going to believe you? And she was definitely ready for that.
It's trickier and trickier when all these stories are out there, and she would have had to navigate a lot of stuff to get up there. So I do understand why she made the decision she did, and I think it was a smart one, but I was kind of expecting her to testify.
And like, it was the smart one in that we all assumed Donna Adelson was going to fail. But like I said, you can check the tweets. If she doesn't testify, she loses. It's over. So I get it that if she testifies, she probably gets smoked. There might be a 99.9% chance she gets absolutely cooked by Georgia Kappelman. But to me, that 1% or 0.1% chance the jury feels bad for her or believes her is like, oh, I didn't see it like that. But, this woman maybe I don't relate to as a normal Jewish grandma or whatever, that's the way she saw it. I get it from her explanation. And I think there were some things that were unexplainable. I get it. But the way I look at it, that was their only chance at a Hail Mary. And instead they just took a knee. That's what it felt like to me. And she's calling it the smart decision, yet she bet the under on Charlie's conviction number as far as how many hours they deliberated. So everybody knew that she was cooked as is. And that's why Georgia was like, yeah, we don't even have any rebuttal witnesses if they're not going to call any more witnesses, meaning if they're not going to call Donna Adelson. But if they call Donna Adelson, we might need rebuttal witnesses, which tells you what you need to know as far as if they complete the Hail Mary, they have a chance, right? If they throw that ball in the air, I should say, they have a chance.
The new evidence that you thought in this trial might have made the difference that when you came across that you introduced?
I think the fleeing to Vietnam didn't hurt, especially since she denied it. She could have just said, yeah, I went to Vietnam. I didn't want to get arrested. But she didn't do that. She oversold.
The
So that was
VIN
helpful.
number and the planner. Like,
Yes.
Can you talk about that? Like, how did you guys find that? Was it an aha moment?
Yeah. Kind of dumb luck. That thing is so dense and there's a bunch of them. So we've just been sort of perusing them, and somebody just stumbled upon it and had an aha moment.
With all Rob Adelson's testimony, how key.
So before we get to Rob Adelson's testimony, you could tell that flight to Vietnam that Donna said was a setup, her lawyer, that was a key piece. I think that was where they're like, this is an absolute slam dunk at this point. That's what I was feeling. I was like, during Charlie's trial, it's Donna. I was like, this is not good for Donna. When she gets arrested at the airport with a one-way ticket in her bags, put a fork in her. As Vince Carter said, it's over in that dunk contest, that famous dunk contest that he won by a mile.
Was that?
I think it was important,
Mhm.
didn't you? I thought he was so genuine, and what a guy to be able to do that. What a terrible situation for him to be put in, and to be able to rise above that and do the right thing. It's really impressive.
Did you all wait for this trial to put him on? Why did he not testify previously?
I just didn't want to do it to him unless I felt like it was absolutely necessary, and I really felt like we needed him in this one.
Georgia is.
Yeah, and if you listen and think back to Rob's testimony, he didn't really give you much on Charlie, right? Frankly, he said Charlie didn't really care about Donna's relationship, which for Charlie's trial might have been a bad fact for the state. But for this trial, it's a great fact for the state. Charlie didn't care. Why would Charlie have anything to do with this? The number one woman in Charlie's life. That's how. Charlie solicited Katie. Who solicited Charlie? Donna Adelson. And you needed Rob Adelson to help connect those dots. And I appreciate she's a thoughtful prosecutor. It's just like anytime you have to put a minor up there or a family member or something that's just going to be so incredibly difficult for any witness, you should think about that witness. You should care about that witness. You should consider that witness's feelings. You should consider what it's going to do to that witness to have it come testify about, against his mom or his brother or anybody, maybe even against Wendy. I don't know if they'll need Rob against Wendy, right? It feels like they might not based on his testimony here. Maybe he's got more, but I appreciate the thoughtfulness behind that.
Wendy have reason to be worried tonight.
You said that word. That's a bad word.
A bad word. Let me
No
ask you another
W.
question.
Worried's a bad word.
Well, last
Worried?
time,
Should we say stay
Worry.
tuned? Do we need to stay tuned?
Stay
I mean,
tuned.
you can stay tuned.
All right. So the way that was reported to me felt different than it came out in this interview, right? She's like, you can stay tuned. She was repeating what somebody else said. It was very different than Karen Reed's lawyers. What they were saying is, we ain't got no quit. We're not going anywhere. We're not done. Very, very different. But she did say it. She didn't say she's closing the book. And frankly, even I'm going to back it up just so we can hear exactly how that came out again. But even if it is over, and even if they're not going to prosecute anybody else, maybe you want Wendy to sleep with one eye open, right? Maybe you don't want Harvey to be so comfortable to think he and his family got away with something so deplorable and horrible. I mean, they definitely didn't get away with it, but he might be sleeping on the outside of prison for the rest of his life. But maybe you want them to think about it, even if you're not going to prosecute them. So why say you close the book, right? There ain't no statute of limitations on this crime.
Do we need to stay tuned?
Stay
I mean,
tuned.
you can stay tuned.
one other question for me. I mean, your father played football. I understand. I went to my first Knowles game, and I take all the credit
Oh,
for
it was a
Bama
great
win.
one.
Yeah,
Lucky you.
I take all the credit
Go
for that.
Knowles.
And I found out maybe
Georgia Kappelman's just getting closer and closer to my heart with the Go Knowles comment. That's awesome. That's awesome.
through the grapevine that someone else in your family is a professional female golfer or that you're close to. I don't know if I'm right about that. Maybe not, but do you get to get
Sounds cool.
Do you think you get that competitive spirit from from your dad, from your family?
Yes, I think both sides of my family are extremely competitive, and if you came to game night, you would see some pieces being thrown around the room.
The most important question.
I don't know what that's like. I don't know what it's like to have a competitive family full of psychotic, competitive people. Sometimes I look at my kids and I'm like, why are you a psychopath? We're just playing a game. And my wife looks over at me like, are you being serious? And I was like, I feel it. I feel it.
Do you have a fifth red suit?
I don't know. I'll work on that. I'll work on
Number
that.
5 of 5,
Yeah,
number
I'll
5.
work on it
Chapter
for
5.
you.
Georgia
With
asked
chapter
about Charlie
5.
Adelson. Last year you were going, it seemed like the state was going to call him, but ultimately this time around, no one called him to the stand. Why?
Because we didn't want to tangle with him unless we had to, and we felt like we were able to successfully get out the story that he told at his trial and marry Donna to it as much as we needed to without.
So the plan was to call Charlie, tell his story so the jury knew it clear what his story was, and then force Donna to get into it. But they don't want to mess with Charlie on the stand if they don't have to. They don't want to get into the mud, because when you get into the mud and you start slinging the slop, sometimes it's hard to tell who's the pig and who's not, right? So you got to be careful. It's a very smart decision to not get out over your skis, not over try the case, not call Charlie just because everybody would have loved it and everybody would have reported on it. It probably wouldn't have added another day to this trial, been more convoluted. And again, she wanted to get into his story. She forced it into her closing. They got pieces of it in through text messages, through cross-examination and direct examination questions of witnesses that they called. So they got enough into where she's like, you think it's enough to where I'll be able to argue it in closing and get the adopted admissions in that Donna wrote those text messages. They made a decision as a team to go for it. The judge let them do it in closing over the defense's objection. It was a big deal. And you could tell the defense was trying to not get into the details of Charlie's defense because they objected during her closing. They told the jury in their closing that they talked about Charlie over our objection. The defense did not want to get into it. The state did, and they found a way to do it without calling Charlie Adelson. That's using the rules the best you can, winning arguments with the judge, and crafting arguments in closing to make sure the jury understand just enough to understand how stupid of a defense that was and how Donna said it was true, it was true, it was true. The truth has finally come out. So this is all strategy. She's talking all about lawyer strategy of this trial.
Having to wrangle and tangle with him.
If I'm not mistaken, this was the first trial where you guys were able to access WhatsApp messages. Was there a new am I right about that? Was there a new technological
I can't
advance?
remember if we had any WhatsApp messages last time, but they are encrypted, so you really do have to get them off the device itself. So we were able to retrieve some threads.
And was that
from
related to
Donna's
getting
device.
from Donna's device? Yeah.
Was Cheryl's case more polished? The demonstratives seemed to be up a notch from before. Just,
Yes,
I'm
that's
trying
because I
to-
didn't make them. I only directed. I did get some wonderful volunteer help, so.
When you hear the podcast I did with my dad, he was wondering if they hired somebody, if they had somebody in-house. She just said, I got some wonderful volunteer help. And I'll tell you, because one of my big things in life has become, I did not know this was going to be something that was going to be part of my life, but what can we learn from these high profile trials and the people that want to help and the people that have such skill, right? That we could never have as trial lawyers. And they reach out, and when they feel a cause and they feel this is justice and they want to be a part of it and they're willing to volunteer their time and their talents, that is so amazing. And there's so many cases that don't get the attention that they deserve, but the cases that do, they get that attention, they deserve that attention. And you have somebody like this volunteer and make it crystal clear and so much. Wait till you hear my dad rave about the demonstrative aids as a guy who doesn't use a lot of technology. And if he does, we're all helping him build it, right? He's never built a PowerPoint in his life. But from my perspective, I appreciate that she said that and that it's happening and that people are coming forward and helping and using their talents for justice. I love that.
I don't know if she wants to shout it or not, but.
Were there other things that were new and improved? Some of the witnesses even seem to be testifying a little smoother than before.
I don't know. Did they? I don't know.
It's a
either.
blur.
If the trial had
Yeah,
come
it's all
forward,
one long
yeah,
day.
if the trial had come forward a year ago, you wouldn't have all the evidence from the new investigation. How significant was to have the notes from Drina Bernhardt?
I thought it was great. I thought it was.
When she showed
She's like, I thought it was great how stupid Donna was. It's like when these defendants just talk too much and misstep and do stupid things. By the way, the other prosecutor is standing right in the background, wanting zero limelight. I thought she absolutely crushed it this trial as well. Absolutely crushed it. But they probably, I bet you when they found out about the jailhouse snitches, they were like, Donna, you couldn't be so stupid, Donna. That's what I bet they were thinking.
up with that, it was like Christmas Day.
Christmas.
It felt like this
She said Christmas Day when she showed up with that notebook.
trial, you did mention Wendy's name more. Was that just because of who the defendant was, or is there a strategy behind more evidence against Wendy coming out?
I think it was because of who the defendant was and how important the motive was to establish, which largely arose from the communications between Donna and Wendy. So yeah, Wendy ended up more in the mix.
And that's a great question and a great answer and a great thought, because why did we hear Donna so much with Charlie? Well, now we know even more with Donna's trial that the motive for Charlie was Donna. It wasn't Wendy. Donna was Charlie's motive to make Donna feel better, right? To help Donna, to solve a problem for Donna. That's why we heard Donna so much in Charlie's trial. But why did we hear so much Wendy in this trial? And Donna was next. Maybe Wendy is next. But why did we hear Wendy so much? Because that was Donna's motive. Wendy was Donna's motive. That's why we heard Wendy. Great question. Great answer. I love it. People are so smart around these cases.
You say a little bit about the boys. I could feel the emotion. It seemed like it really resonated with the jury
Those
when you talked
boys.
about.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, there's no justice for them, and I haven't done them any favors today, and I lose sleep over that fact. It's tough. I know that. Yeah, the family's just been totally destroyed, and I hate that. And sometimes it feels a little bit like being a part of it.
I would not say you're a part of the problem at all. Obviously, I get what she's saying, though. She's putting all their family members behind bars. All these people who theoretically love them and are willing to do anything to protect them, but whose moral compass is clearly off. And these boys should not learn how to live life and right and wrong from these people, right? I think we can all agree with that. So she is doing them a service, even though I'm sure it doesn't feel like it to them. It doesn't feel like it to her. Legally speaking and right and wrong, she understands. By the way, the way she reacted to that question, hands on her face, lets you believe that the stuff we talked about during the trial, the emotion and whatever, is it going to rub a jury a wrong way, blah, 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 right? Even the stuff I say, right? Because I'm sitting here, we're talking about it, we're critiquing it. You can say whatever you want. It's real. It's really her. That's really how she reacts. That's really how she feels. And it works because it's real. If you try to put on, if you're fake and you're trying to act like somebody else or trying to force emotion, it doesn't work. It falls flat. It's gross. But when it's real, if people don't like it, they don't like it. But if it's real, it usually works. And for her, it's real and it's been working.
So, yeah, I wish them nothing but the best, and I hope they can reconnect with their paternal relatives and get past this. Yep.
Georgia needs to go to
You
sleep
guys.
now. Georgia hasn't slept in quite a while.
All right. So that's it. A great interview. Great comments about the boys at the end. It's brutal to think about that. And they might not be done. I mean, imagine if Wendy is next. Listen, if she did it and she's guilty and, she committed this crime and ended Dan's life, then she deserves to be punished to the full extent of the law. It really breaks you inside to think about what that would do to the boys too. Right. And as a prosecutor, you have to think about that. You have to think about that. You got to do what's right, but you have to think about that. And it's, heavy as the crown, right? Whatever that goes, whatever it is, it's like when you've got the responsibility with great power comes great responsibility. Prosecutors have great power in this scenario. And I think she fully understands the responsibility that she has in this scenario. So I am content too. You've got the podcast dropping later, either Sunday night or Monday morning with my dad, his take on all of this. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to our page. But until next time, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok. And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast featuring new episodes every week. And if you have a case that you want to personally talk to us about in your life, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, truck accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, The Lawyer You Know.